First thing on the agenda is a Macomb County Renovations monthly progress report. Andy, if you'd like to commence with that report. First, I think we need a motion to receive and file before we move forward. So Commissioner Carabelli makes a motion, and Commissioner Lucido seconds it. Thank you. Go ahead and
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to update you this afternoon. Just one item I wanted to update everyone on. At the previous update back in August, Commissioner Carabelli had requested some additional information. That information was forwarded to Ms. Dibb in your office this morning. I believe it's been received by Commissioner Carabelli. So I just wanted to make sure that we captured that as part of the presentation. We have a couple projects that are currently in progress that I'll update you on today. First off is the administration building. The third floor renovation, that work is complete. The punch list for that work is complete. The prosecuting office is currently occupying the space and operating. We have a few items with regard to the fourth and fifth floor with the internal stairwell that was installed. There's some carpeting that had to be ordered, and the delivery date, or excuse me, the carpet is scheduled to arrive November 15th, and the install will follow. So once those items are wrapped up, probably mid to end of November, the work within the prosecuting attorney's office will be complete. The seventh floor with the Planning Economic Development Department, that space was turned over last week. The department moved in and is currently occupying the space. We're about 95% complete with the punch list there. There's a few items that remain. There's some light fixtures that have to be adjusted, and a few other items that Mr. Ray had requested that we address. So we anticipate within the next week or so that all of those items will be wrapped up. Moving on to the circuit court, the sixth floor and the north side of the first floor of the new jury room, that area is completed. It's currently occupied. We've moved on to the fifth floor, where we've completed the demolition activities, and we're into about 80% of the walls being framed, and we have the 80% of rough mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work that's in place. We've also started work on the south side of the first floor. That demo is, those demolition, yes, sir? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you'd, excuse me. The demolition activities for the south side of the first floor are complete. We have the ductwork installation is about 25% complete. We have the wall layout, which is started, and we have rough electrical and plumbing that's currently being installed for the bathrooms. The fifth floor renovation in the south of the area of the first floor, we anticipate that construction will conclude sometime in March of 2018. Those are the only two projects we have currently going. The only other item I wanted to mention was we do have the Clemens storage facility that's going to be bid out towards the end of December. We anticipate that we would have a recommendation for award coming to you at the board meeting in January. So I guess just a heads up on that. And that's all I have.
Great. Are there questions of any commissioner? Yeah. Oh, Chairman Smith, sorry.
Bet there's something on there. Thank you. Thanks, Andy.
Yes.
I have a question for you on the courtrooms. I at least have heard, I mean, I don't have firsthand knowledge of it, but that after the sixth floor was done, there was a bunch of people talking about, in the court building, I think.
Okay.
The courtrooms themselves were kind of disjointed for trial purposes, I had understood. And I'm just wondering if there's been any talk with you guys about any changes after the first floor has been done to the next floors as far as the courtroom configurations.
Yes, sir. And thank you for your question. There were a few items that after the courtrooms were constructed, that we met with court administrator Julie Bovichin and Chief Judge Biernat. They raised some concerns with respect to a few of the finish items that are currently constructed. So we've captured those items. We're currently working on a resolution for all of their concerns. Those items are being reviewed and considered for pricing at this point. It essentially comes down to funding sources and whether or not we were able to facilitate that moving forward.
Okay, but that being said, we don't know what the cost is of any of the
It's currently out for pricing right now.
changes. Okay.
Yep,
Okay, all right, thank you.
no problem.
Okay, Commissioner Carabelli, then Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for you. It's the Clemens Center, you're going out for final bid, you think, by year's end? Is that what you said?
Yep, we anticipate we're going to have a full construction set of documents tomorrow, and Clark Construction will provide a price, an estimate on that, and then we'll make sure that it's within budget before we take it to bid. And then once we get through the bidding process, we'll vet out the contractor and then present a recommendation to you.
Okay. Do you know, because I don't have the whole contract in front of me, the large portfolio when we first started. Do you know that portion was in the original budget?
Yes, it was.
And, okay, so when that comes up, if you could, when you bring those proposals, if you could also show us
The original budget?
what we said we were going to budget and what the contingency cost is, so
Sure.
we have an idea at the time.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm pointing at her because she's
Thank you. What are the changes that you have coming, that are in the court building?
There's a few items that were brought up. One of them was there's a paper ledge that they wanted, that was requested to be added so documents could be presented or staged by the court reporter. There's also, there was a dimension constraint due to some of the technology equipment that was installed that the court reporter, I believe it's the court reporter, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, the court reporter's actual space was a little bit too small. So the request was that on the 5th floor that we increase that space to facilitate the technology, and then we're currently looking at a resolution for the 6th floor to revise the existing built-in casework to facilitate that those technology needs. There were a few other items that came up. There was revision to the prosecutor's desk that's being considered. Those are the highlights. I could get you some more information about the specifics, but those are a few things that that come to my mind right now.
And when those things happen and these changes are requested, who pays for that? Who approves those changes?
So we consult with the architect. They provide design, and we take those out and provide pricing. We bring them back. In this instance, that they're revisions to the plan that was previously approved. We're seeking funding sources from outside of the current budget to facilitate these changes. So I guess in another way to say it is that we're looking to perhaps the court administrator or within the circuit court to fund the revisions to these items.
So that's then not coming out of the, Steve, maybe you can help me on that. Where's that money coming from if these are?
I think Andy said that they're trying to identify funding sources. I haven't been involved at this point, so I don't know what's involved in these particular renovations or revisions.
So other budgets are being amended, or, I mean, we're,
So
and that's not coming back to us?
well, I can, when you say they're not coming back to you,
Right, so for example, I've been complaining for almost a year now about the benches at the front of the court. That when I first saw the courtrooms, there were benches at the back that were spectator benches. They were removed. I asked a whole bunch of times how much it was, and somebody said, well, about $30,000. Where are those benches at and what's gonna happen? Well, I've never gotten an answer, and I've never gotten I'm told they're gonna be repurposed. They haven't popped up anywhere that I've seen as I'm out and around the county.
okay.
And so there's a $30,000 mistake. Who's paying for that mistake? Where is it coming from? And it doesn't come back to us to say what the plan you approved is now different, and there's a $30,000. That's just one little item. And then, so if you're telling me that there are changes, they want to add desks and they want to add shelves and stuff, I understand that once you get it in, you look at it and say, okay, this needs to be adjusted. But then where's the corresponding budget adjustment? And is it now out of the capital plan and now you're looking into the other departments' budgets to see where it's coming from? That's what I need to know.
Okay, well, I can provide you more detail on that, but it's my understanding that for this specific instance, because these are requested changes after the fact, after we've already bought the project, that they would be funded from an alternate source outside of the current campus renovation project.
Okay, so then, like for the juvenile court, there's not enough seats for all the jurors. Who's going to fix that and who's going to pay for that?
That's an item that I can bring up and we can review, and I can report back to you.
Okay,
to
can
find
you
out
make
if
sure
there's-
that that's an item in the next report? Because I keep asking, who's paying for these changes? Who's paying for these mistakes? And where's it coming from? And I keep being told, that's an item that we'll look back and let you know. I still don't know. Thank you.
Commissioner Kleinfeld, you took your name off the list?
And then put it back on.
Okay.
And then I think I took it off again and put it back on again.
Are you currently on or off?
I am on right now.
All right. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Okay, thank you. I believe Commissioner Toko is specifically talking about the fact that the benches weren't ADA compliant, correct?
They were there and they were removed because they weren't ADA.
Correct. So the reason this one's a question is that we're making the assumption that when it was designed to be ADA compliant. And if there was a mistake in the design and it's not ADA compliant, that the county would not be responsible for replacing those benches. We know that some of them are add-ons, some of them are finding things behind the walls and all of that. That specific one appeared to be, if they're not ADA compliant, then there was a mistake made in the designing because and that's why that's a question. And I don't know about the court one, but I mean, it appears that most things have been coming out of the capital plan money to cover those things. And I think she raises a question that makes us wonder about all of these things. Are we paying for things out of the capital plan that were mistakes that were not of the county's making? And I don't know who's making that determination. Could you enlighten me on who makes that determination? I mean, is it you guys that made that determination? Is there anybody on our side that says, wait a minute, that one was not our fault?
Okay, so to answer, I guess kind of like two-part. We don't make any call on what money gets spent on what. We would advise the county on what the options are, and then the county would make that decision. So I can go back and research this one specific item, give you some more detail. Would that help to solve?
No, yeah, I'm not specifically talking about the things that are the result of the county changing plans or finding things in the county. It appears this was a design mistake. And if it was a design mistake, the county paid to have somebody design it and have it be designed ADA compliant. That would mean it wouldn't be the county's fault. Therefore, the county shouldn't pay the price.
Right.
So my question was, who determines when an issue is and isn't the county's fault or responsibility? I don't want to use the word just fault, because some things aren't anybody's fault, but they are somebody's financial responsibility. So let me use that word instead. So who makes that determination is my question. And has there ever been a determination that it wasn't the county's responsibility?
Again, I'll have to go back and research this one specific incident because I don't want to speak out of turn. But with respect to who makes the ultimate, who makes the decision, all pricing goes through the Facilities and Operations Department with the director, and then sometimes those items are escalated up to the county level with the deputy county executive for decisions on what items are funded and which items are not.
Okay, you're not answering the question as to who determines whether or not it's not when it's not the county's responsibility.
Point of information.
Go ahead.
Thank you. As the owner's rep, our rep,
Yes.
you're working on our behalf. So the question has come up, is that if there's a design issue that we hired an architect for and you're our rep, she's asking you the question, you're going to hold them accountable if this is something the county should be paying for, or hold the architect or the contractor, whoever it is. So you're going to be making a recommendation to the county, which would be Lynn or it would be Mark.
Yes.
On who
That's
should be
correct.
paying for it, or if it's the county's responsibility, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what she
I'm,
was
I'm
kinda-
sorry, I didn't mean to.
Thank you.
Thank you for your clarification, I appreciate it. So when those items do come up, they're reviewed by Clark Construction, who's a construction manager, with myself, and then we bring them forward and recommend whether it's a design error, if it's an owner change, if it's a field condition, and then we recommend that to be considered for approval at that point by the county.
Okay, so if it's a design issue, do you then contact the architect and say, we have an issue, therefore you may need to cover this cost?
There's certain provisions within the contract that allow for a certain percentage of errors and omissions within the contract. But yes, to answer your question, we do contact the architect and make them aware that there's an issue that they need to resolve, and then we work through those issues, and we track, as items are approved, if it's a field condition, if it's an owner requested change, if it's a contingency item, or if it's a design error.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We've got two more speakers. I just wanted to ask myself a question that Commissioner Kleinfeld asked, but you didn't get a chance to answer, and that was, has there ever been an instance where a change or an unexpected development or something that was non-compliant was not determined to be, was not paid for by the county? Was there an additional cost in which the county was not responsible for at any point in this process, in which either the architect firm or your firm or somebody else was deemed responsible and had to pay, or has it always ended up being the county has always paid for those changes, errors, or changes in the situation?
Sure. No, with respect to your question, there are after we review what the cost item is and the cause of that cost item, there are certain instances where contractors would be back charged if it was an item that we were found that it was due to their error, that they would be responsible for those items. So it's not every instance that it's the county's cost to bear for cost items. There are instances where contractors are back charged.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to get back to what Commissioner Toko was talking about. So like the circuit court on the 6th floor, they have some changes they want to make. And I think you indicated that those changes, the funding for those changes would possibly come out of somebody else's department. Do we know, is it going to be the circuit court or is it going to be field and operations? Are we going to be told where they decided to take the funds from, other than the capital expenditure fund, to apply?
Yes, we can update you on what those funding sources are for the different items. That's
Okay.
we can do
I
that.
think it's important to know that, so that way we know where capital expenditure funds are being used and where capital expenditure funds aren't being used. I'm not saying I'm opposed to the idea of
Yep,
doing
I
it that
understand.
way, but we should have some idea here so that we don't commingle things. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I think we have one more speaker, and that's Chair Smith.
Thank you. A lot of my questions have been asked, but is Steve still behind you? Oh, there you are. So let me just ask you a question, and Steve, you might have a little closer, position on this to the county, but so the 6th floor was obviously designed by somebody, right? And if you don't have enough room for technology on the court clerk's table, somebody missed that, right? So do we look back at this thing? Because, I mean, I know we're kind of late, and we can't change what happened before, and believe me, we would have probably changed a lot of things had we, gone from this point and started this project. But a lot of these design things came up where there was a walkthrough one time 4 years ago with someone, and then no other communication, and this isn't necessarily you, but I'm just telling you both for this, no other communication was had with any of the floors or the departments or the elected officials on, all right, we went through, here's this, what do you think? Should we change this? Do we look at this? Do we have somebody who is I guess it's F&O, but do we have someone on our side looking out for this kind of thing? Because it seems like there was a lot of missteps here, and it doesn't sound like it was always our fault. And I'm just wondering who in the county, and I understand.
Back to Andy, because I don't know, like you said.
But I mean, don't we have, I mean, was it in the executive's office, was it F&O? Was there one point
I know
person that?
there are consistent and constant meetings with Plante, Moran.
But
Clark.
not with the, so I just want to, I mean, this is a little late, but I just want to do this for the future. There was only one meeting. When we started looking at the plan that they were working off for here, it was like a couple plans back. I mean, we had actually had a few extra discussions brought on by us, changed some things originally, but then when they came in, they were working off plans that were like a plan or two back. And there was a lot of that going on. So I'm seeing this in the court right now where, do we even look back? It's kind of like the, our corporation counsel, when we get sued for things and we wonder, does anybody ever have to get questioned or does anything change for this? The court people, someone designed the 6th floor, and if there's not enough room for technology and then there's not enough room for jurors, I mean, is anybody responsible for that, or is that just, oh, crap, we just screwed up? I mean, are we looking at doing anything different for future projects? Because this was a huge project, and I understand there's going to be, some missteps, but it seemed like almost every department had this kind of thing where we're missing some obvious stuff. So I thought maybe you might know, being the finance guy, on like who our point person was that should have been kind of following up on all of these to make sure that everybody's good with this plan before we get moving forward. So I mean, it's just irritating. This is more of an irritates the crap out of me. I mean, how we
No,
miss.
I understand.
I mean, we don't have enough seats for jurors. I mean,
Right.
who designs that? I mean, who do they talk to in there? It's just, I mean, and this is
I think
all.
it's a process with the architects and Plante Moran, exec's office.
And I guess there's an
facilities,
architectural
and I
thing
don't
too
know
right there where.
that communication, that back communication,
Yeah.
if you will, with the departments is
Right.
falling short.
Yeah,
don't know
I'd
that.
agree with that, but I'm just wondering, like, so is that an engineering architectural thing where they should know how many seats the jurors need? I mean, or is it, anyway, it's, man, and we get this a lot, Andy, and I'm not gonna point at you, but we'll look into this and get back with you. I've heard Kathy ask this question. I can't tell you how many times in how many meetings she's asked this question to come back to us about those benches. And everybody in front of us always says, I'll get back to you on it. And I've never heard anybody explain where they went, what happened, whose fault it was. But at this meeting, it's always easy to say, I'll get back to you on it. And the next meeting, we never get the back to you never comes. So I'm going to tell you that we won't forget after this time that this is probably the 5th time that I've heard you talk about this.
And if I could just make the point, it's not just those benches that I'm concerned about.
No, I
That's just one thing that I see as one commissioner in the county. There may be other things that I'm concerned that we don't know about, or that, haven't been brought to our attention and are being changed, and we've either paid for it or going to pay for it. And I think we should know what's been changed, what needs to be changed, and what the funding source for payment is. On every single thing since we've, over a certain dollar amount, since we've approved the plan.
All right. Well, mine, is to tell you that, I mean, I've heard at least the one, I've heard all of this a lot of times, and we keep I'll get back to you, it kind of is wearing thin. And I'm not saying it's just been you, okay? So I know that you're not here all the time. We've gone through some changes over this, but I've heard Kathy ask this question in this way several times, and yet have we found anybody to come back with the information that she's requested. So that being said, I'm done venting for now.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. Two questions. The first is, a while back, we got a whole bunch of documents with regard to the overruns, and it was, whether it was a change by administration. Do you know what documents I'm talking
It's
about?
a very detailed spreadsheet.
Yes, yes.
On 11 by 17 and.
Yes. Do you know if those, do you remember offhand, because I don't have them with me, I think I actually do have them in the car, whether or not they indicate which items came out of contingency as opposed
That
to?
I don't know off the top of my head.
They do.
They do?
They do.
Okay. All right. And then just with regard to what Chair Smith said, when we first hired the architects, the one thing I said, I said, one thing, don't build this table too tall so you can't see our heads, because the same architects had worked in East Point, and they built them too tall, and you can't see everybody's heads. And they were originally built too tall. So I think the question is, like, did they sit down with Chair Flynn and go through those? I don't know, but that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion before us to receive and file. All please vote. Okay, motion passes.